Wow, it's so crazy to think about this. But the P. Diddy trial is happening literally as we speak. A jury could be seated any time now. As prosecutors and defense attorneys are going through jury selection. And to be honest, this is one of the most important pieces of all of the trial. The verdict hinges on the jury. And with a high profile trial such as this one, it's going to be extra tricky. So I'm really interested to see what happens on both sides. And actually, we'll hear from one of Law and Crime's own attorneys as this episode goes on. Elizabeth, can't wait to hear from her. But first, let's get to the specifics. P. Diddy, Sean Combs, faces multiple federal charges, including racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, he's pleaded not guilty to all of these charges, and we're going through jury selection right now. Now, we don't know for sure what's on the jury questionnaire, what was sent out to prospective jurors before they arrived in court on Monday. However, we do have a pretty good idea based on the draft copy we got our hands on. And this document is not messing around. We've got bold, we've got capital letters left and right to show the seriousness of being seated on a jury. So to start, page 1, bold, all caps. You are sworn to give true and complete answers to all questions in this questionnaire. Do not discuss your questions and answers or the case with anyone now or until further instructed by the court. So think about that. If you're one of these prospective jurors, you got this questionnaire in the mail. Unknown how long. I have personally never been seated on a jury or been called to jury duty, so I guess I don't know how long it is, and it might vary rather depending on where you're at. Regardless, you got this, let's say 2 months ago, and you're not allowed to talk about it for 2 months with anyone. Think about that. That's insane. Now, this document goes on to explain that if you want to get out of jury duty, it's pretty tough. You have to provide a pretty good reason. It states, quote, all jury service involves some degree of hardship. Our court and justice system depends on citizens doing their civic duty to serve as jurors, which involves temporarily putting aside their regular business for jury service. The court views service on a jury to be one of the highest duties a citizen owes to the United States. Mere inconvenience or the usual financial hardship of jury service will not be sufficient to excuse a prospective juror. You must show extraordinary personal or financial hardship to be excused from service. So if you have any of these extreme inconveniences that could excuse you, you have to list them. And then after that, there are some really basic questions that we'd expect. Do you struggle to understand or read English? Do you have an illness that would affect you serving on the jury? Do you have any medicine that would affect you paying attention or remembering things? Do you have any prearranged travel plans that you can't get out of that you've already paid for? But around page 5 is where we get to the juicy questions. The first one that really drew my attention is the following. The charges in this case involve allegations of kidnapping, arson, bribery of a witness, obstruction of justice, drug distribution, forced labor, sex trafficking, and transportation for purpose of engaging in prostitution. Is there anything about the nature of these allegations that would make it difficult for you to be fair and impartial? This case is likely to receive ongoing media attention. As instructed above, from now until your jury service is complete, you're instructed to avoid all media coverage and not go on the internet or social media with regard to this case for any purpose. That is, you are forbidden from consuming any news media or social media about this case and from discussing this case or anyone participating in the case outside of the courtroom. You also must not discuss this case with anyone. This includes your family, friends, spouse, domestic partner, colleagues, and coworkers. These instructions apply from now until you are either dismissed from jury selection or chosen as a juror and the trial is complete. When we return for the next step in jury selection, the judge will ask you if you have followed this instruction. So again, in these court docs, really hammering home, you cannot discuss this, even right now, before you guys have been seated on a jury. But also it foreshadows, hey, anybody who's seated on a jury, you can't talk about this. And I know that that's really basic. Like, that is the core of our justice system here, that these jurors are doing their civic duty and not discussing it until it comes time to deliberation only with their fellow jurors. I understand the concept. Whoa, that's got to be tough. That's all I'm going to say, is if you are seated on the P. Diddy jury and you go home at night and you're not allowed to talk about it to anyone. Anyway, the document goes on and talks about the basics too, besides just, keeping things to yourself as far as a jury member or prospective juror, but also the other basics that are really important when it comes time to a trial. First of all, the fact that the defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty, that the burden of proof is on the prosecution rather than the defense, and you as this juror or prospective juror cannot hold it against the defendant if they choose not to testify. Also, that your verdict must come from evidence or lack of evidence and not from speculation. So they go through all of these things and say, can you handle it? Now, the questionnaire also specifically asks about P. Diddy. It writes, quote, this case and other matters involving Mr. Combs have been widely reported in the national and local media. There is nothing wrong with having seen or heard something about this case or about Mr. Combs. It is important to answer all of the following questions truthfully and fully. Before today, have you read, seen, or heard anything about Mr. Combs or the criminal charges brought against Mr. Combs? Have you personally formed any opinion about Mr. Combs' guilt or innocence of the crimes charged as a result of anything you have heard, read, or seen? Based on anything you have read, seen, or heard about Mr. Combs, including anything about the criminal charges against Mr. Combs, have you formed any opinions about Mr. Combs? Have you communicated to others or posted your opinion on social media or online about Mr. Combs? Based on anything you have read, seen, or heard about Mr. Combs, including anything about criminal charges brought against Mr. Combs, would you be able to follow the court's instruction to put that information out of your mind and decide this case based only on the evidence presented in trial? So that was a summary of the questionnaire that was sent out to prospective jurors. And depending on their answers, some of these people who filled out the survey will report back to court this week for voir dire. Now, we've got an idea of what will be discussed during all of this too, and once again, it's based on a draft document. So asking things like, what's your age? What's your sex? What's your gender identity? In what city do you currently live? Are you married? Do you have kids? What are your ages of your family? What's the highest level of education? What is everyone's job? Really the basic things. And then here's another example of the more specifics. I'm going to read you a list of occupational areas. Please tell me if you or someone you are very close to has any training, experience, or specialized knowledge in that area, and explain you/their experience. And then it lists out a couple. Business, sexual assault training, sexual harassment training, domestic violence training, psychiatry, psychology, security services, addiction treatment or counseling, finance, law, or law enforcement. And then there are questions about what type of person this juror is to. For instance, how do you spend your free time? What sort of hobbies do you have? Do you use social media a lot? Is that where you get your news? Where do you get your news? Do you watch the news? What is your decision-making style? Are you a leader? Are you a follower? You make decisions.
Yes. We back in the building with another podcast vlog, and this is RD Podcast, and I'm your host, Hand 5000. And I'm gonna be rocking out in the morning, man. But the boy was down for the count. The boy was sick, distracted. There was a bunch of stuff going on, but I promise you, I'm back in full effect, like ESPN. We on in the zone. 5th round pick, Shador. What's happening? I'm lining them up today, man. We got Ohio, man. Retaliation ASAP against Ohio Police Department. They killed his son one day. He went back and got one of them. We gonna get it and all that. P. Diddy jury selection is under the way. Diddy got a speedy trial. Been locked up since October. He got his guns, Glocks off Satan. He picking the jury. We should see the boy dancing by May the 12th and Lil Durk. The feds pulled the fast one on Durkio. And plus, we got more. Whatever's going on, please hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. Boy, I've been out the algorithm, so I'm going 30 for 30. This is the first episode, 30 for 30. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on, why my stuff is blinking, but I'm going to get it right. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this is 30 for 30 joint. You know what I mean? So listen, hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. And we're gonna be thumbing through some news flashes. I cannot play the video of when the shorty got shot in Ohio. I can't play that, due to YouTube regulations. So we're gonna respect YouTube because I'm trying to get back in the algorithm. The boy been out the algorithm for a minute. Make sure y'all go tap into my last upload. Test Me 410. Test Me Baltimore to England interview. Should be on fire. But when you pushed out the algorithm, it is. And you know what we gotta do? We gotta work back in the algorithm. Nothing blocking this 30-day grind. Let's get to it. Third World Studio, Spaz Money was good. So let's say what they gotta say. The jury selection gonna be deep for Diddy. Like this is like the realest shit ever. People gonna write books and ever. Roll up though.
And here are some more specifics. Quote, the defendant in this case is a wealthy celebrity. Do you have any opinions regarding wealthy individuals that would affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror in this case? Do you believe that wealthy people get away with things that the less wealthy do not? What kind of music do you like? How often do you listen to music? Do you have an opinion about the hip hop rap music industry or artists in that genre? If so, please tell us what it is. The specific questions about Diddy continue. There may be evidence in this case about people engaging in sexual relations with multiple sexual partners. Would hearing about that type of evidence be difficult for you? There may be evidence that people cheated on girlfriends or boyfriends with other individuals. Would hearing that type of evidence affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror in this case? Have you ever been through a traumatic event? If so, would that affect your ability to listen to witnesses who may say they went through traumatic events? Do you have any experience or training in the area of sex crimes? If so, please tell us what that is. Do you have any experience in or training concerning crime victims? If so, please tell us what that is. So, based on all of that, we kind of have an idea what could happen during jury selection, but I personally still have a lot of questions. So, let's go to our interview for some answers. All right, you guys, we have the privilege of bringing on one of my favorite coworkers today, Elizabeth Ulai, Law and Crime Legal Counsel. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on Scandal. Once again, it's so great to talk to you. And today I wanted to talk to you about jury selection because, I mean, this is very important in any sort of trial, right? But now we have P. Diddy, who is universally known.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to make things extra tricky for seating a jury, right?
Of all that. I don't know, man. Like, I think on some real shit, like with Diddy, I mean, I don't know, bro. It's a toss up.
welcome back to
One
Diddy
thing
and
for
Charles.
sure is that if they play that Cassidy tape, for shit show, that's that's they smoking gun. So in the beginning of this trial, the defense gotta prepare for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, look, he guilty as charged with that, but today he not on trial for domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? He on trial for something more bigger than this. This is another case. I think so. Will Cassie testify? Hell yeah, she will testify.
Diddy Combs starts 1 week from today. The sexual misconduct charges he faces have attracted widespread media coverage, which could make it difficult to pick an unbiased jury.
Fox 5's Lisa Albers is in the newsroom. Lisa, today.
Yeah, the jury definitely gonna be biased.
With a jury selection consultant about that jury selection process.
Yes, I did, and very, very interesting. She's telling us it will be up to 12 residents of 8 New York counties, including some from upstate, to decide whether Sean Diddy
All the motherfuckers
walks
from
away
upstate
from this case a free man or stays locked down for decades. Now the jury selection process is underway to pick a jury who can decide his fate.
Hold up. That almost got a copyright joint.
Jumpsuit. 600 men and women are filling out jury surveys to determine if they will be deselected or selected to determine his fate. It's based on 20 to 70 questions.
The questions range from your basic impartiality, your basic ability to serve, if they have financial hardship or childcare concerns. But then they also go into a range of what groups, organizations they belong to, their experiences with law enforcement, and then they really get into their thoughts on the nature of the charges.
Judge Arun Subramanian has ruled that the horrific video of Cassie Ventura being beaten by Combs can be admitted in court. Prosecutors will also be able to introduce videos of the alleged freak-off sex and drug sessions.
They really get into their thoughts on the nature of the charges. So if hearing graphic evidence would make it hard for them to be fair, their experiences with sexual harassment, domestic violence, they go into questions about drug and alcohol use.
For most of this week, prosecutors and Diddy's defense team will be poring over the questionnaires and eliminating candidates.
By May 1st, they have to propose 4 lists. So a list that both sides can agree, the jurors can move on to jury selection so they don't have any hardships or cause challenges. A list that both sides agree should be excused.
Now, the prosecution and defense will each submit a list of jurors that they do not want on the jury. The people who make it will be there in federal court a week from today for the actual jury selection. Now, whether they are questioned because of the high-profile nature of the trial, because of the high-profile nature of the trial.
I'm about to write a comment down. Y'all think Diddy gonna beat this? Y'all think Diddy's gonna beat this? I don't know, man. Listen, man, he got a strong defense team. He got $1 million team. Diddy has a $1 million team, a multi-million-dollar defense team that's gonna fight with him. A lot of this stuff ain't gonna make sense. Do I think they're gonna find Diddy guilty on all charges? No, I don't. I'm just be honest with you. I'm gonna give you my straight narrow. Do I think they're gonna find him guilty of something? Yeah, I do. They're gonna find him guilty of something. But the Rico and all that shit, nah. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think I like 4 charges. If you know the exact Diddy charges, let me know in the comment box. But I think, honestly speaking, I think Diddy, I don't know, man. I know he hit with the Rico, sex trafficking, he hit with all this. But at the end of the day, he does has a guideline. So when he gets sentenced in this, or would Diddy cop out in the middle of trial and aim for a plea deal? I don't know, bro. I don't know. What did he get? With the domestic dispute thing with Cassie, that's vicious. You get what I'm saying? That's like a hard blow to the defense. Like, you won the jury with that. You won the people with that. But everything else, you know what I'm saying? I don't think they could prove beyond a reasonable doubt. I just don't, like, you know what I mean? Having these freak offs and people being drinking, having drugs, you know what I'm saying? People, men and women have did things, you know what I'm saying? Sexual acts off of drinking and drugs. That's just known for facts. Like, it's known for a fact you can be sober and be a stiff and then, get drunk or, take a drug and be loose as a goose. You get what I'm saying? Is that a criminal charge? You know what I mean? If they bust in there and find a bunch of cocaine and marijuana, yes, that could be a criminal charge. But I never knew it was a charge of, having sex and, partying or going to after hours or swinging. You know what I mean? It's places that allow that. You get what I'm saying? So if that's what people, and then if people are hanging out, it's one thing. Because Jim Jones said in an interview, you should go to all the Diddy parties. Never got invited to the late night parties. But he's saying, like, yo, if you at a party and you chilling and the party's over with at 1:30, well, if you know anything about New York, and some of this stuff happened in New York and LA, the clubs close at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that's just it. That's hitting. New York clubs close at 4 a.m. So if you in the club, what clown or what freak, you know what I mean, staying at the end to the end of the club to the lights cut on? That don't make no sense, especially if you involved now. Single and mingling, cool. I'm on the lights off, you chasing something. But the average person before the lights come on is out the club in their car and shit. Like, and then if you, like I said, if you're in that single world, you going out, you leaving out to go out 11:30, 12 o'clock. So you might do catch the lights coming on because you really just getting there. You know what I mean? The club don't really get lit till 1:30 in New York. You getting what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? What up, Candy Cane? So I say that to say that if you going hanging out with somebody, a big celebrity, and you partying, you taking a line of coke, and you popping ecstasy, Molly, and you drinking, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, sis, we know what's up. You know what's up. I know what's up. We know what's up. Don't fuck everybody else over. Excuse my language. Don't fuck everybody else over. You know what I mean? Don't let these people go to court and make it seem like it's something that it ain't. It was a party. I was partying. I got fucked up. I had one too many. God knows what I did. That was 25 years ago. You know what I mean? That's just it, man. We all do stuff when we young and wild. That's why you're young and that's why you're wild. You know what I'm saying? That's it. It goes to court. But me, I don't think Diddy's gonna get found guilty on everything, but I think they're gonna find him guilty on something. And later on, I'm gonna look at the actual charges that he's brought up against. But the sex trafficking, I don't believe. Rape, I don't believe. I don't believe no rape and shit. I don't believe in no sex trafficking. And if that's the case, then they might as well lock every man up in the world. Because if you fly your wife out and she fuck you on a trip, that's you sex trafficker. That's basically what they saying. Like, hey, if we going on a date, how the fuck you gonna get there? So 90% of y'all been sex trafficking all your life. If you pay for your girlfriend lift, and baby girl, if you pay for dude to get a lift and come over, you sex trafficking. Dude, if you pay for baby girl lift to come over and y'all gonna have sex, that's sex trafficking. You cannot pay for your partner that you want to be intimate with to come to you, and if they get mad, they're gonna say you sex trafficked him. He paid my Uber to come over to have sex with me. He forced himself on me. That's a charge. Like, come on. For real. Be for real. But Diddy got a lot going on, man. Diddy got a lot going on, man. It's deep, man. It's deep. Everybody there. But the jury selection there, and there's a lot of people not gonna get no sleep for a long time. There's gonna be a lot of people. A lot of them jurors that get selected on the jury gonna be able to make money. They're gonna get interviews. Oh man, like come on. The one juror to find him not guilty, he gonna get the most play. Like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? Diddy ain't gonna get fed. They find him guilty, they're not gonna find him guilty or everything. Or I predict not guilty on all charges. I predict not guilty for a lot of that shit. And then something they gonna find him guilty. Or I'm kind of in between of finding them guilty or something in between of a mistrial. Cause I just feel like that shit gonna get bakey. That's why they don't want that shit in court. That's why, the feds don't want that TV in there, because that shit's gonna be a courtroom charade. That's gonna be a courtroom phenomenal, bro. That joint gonna be deadly in that joint. You know what I mean? Everybody talking about what's they gotta say. Before I get into this macaroni and cheese.
In New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. Brett Mobile's criminal trial began this morning. He is sex trafficking, racketeering, and more. The two sides are now in the process of selecting a jury of 12 plus alternates. Most of the prospective jurors acknowledge they're aware of Combs' case and also the allegations that span some 20 years. Among those allegations, he's accused of forcing at least 3 women to engage in sex acts with him and at times with male prostitutes during parties known as freak-offs, which last for days. Combs faces spending the rest of his life in prison. CNN's Kara Stanell has been covering all these developments for. She's outside New York's federal court right now. So some of these prospective jurors already turned away. Kara, why? Yeah, a number of jurors have been turned away. One woman, because she had seen that hotel surveillance video, she saw a still image of it where Combs is on camera kicking and dragging his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Now, the juror said that she referred to it as damning evidence. And after a back and forth with the judge, he decided to excuse her for cause because she had formed an opinion on it. Other jurors have been excused. One, because the man had just started a new job and couldn't take off 8 weeks. Another juror was excused because he said he had a negative experience with law enforcement. But so far, 11 jurors have qualified to continue through this process. And the magic number here is 45. Once they hit 45 jurors, that is when the judge will have both the prosecutors and Combs' team do their preliminary strikes. That's where they can eliminate said she did see that hotel surveillance video. 2 women who said that they had been sexually abused, saying it happened decades ago, and they thought that they could look at the evidence in this case, which is about sexual assault, and view it fair and unbiased based on what comes into the courtroom. And one woman who is proceeding, so she was arrested when she was 16 for shoplifting at Harry Potter's World at Universal Studios. The judge asked her what she stole. She said it was a wand. And then another juror who works for the Department of Corrections said that he pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor felony, and he is continuing in this case. So we're expected to continue as long as it takes to get to that 45 and to get through the strikes. The judge is hopeful that that could be concluded as soon as Wednesday, with opening statements in the case beginning next week, and then the beginning of the evidence of Combs has pleaded guilty.
Diddy went to trial for 6
lawyers
months.
have said that all of these allegations are the prosecutors trying to criminalize his sexual activity that they say was entirely consensual. Guys? All right, Kara, appreciate it. Thank you. Brianna?
Yeah, that's what
Let's talk about this now with entertainment attorney and former.
I'm gonna get into it after this litigator finish talking.
Lisa, I just want to get your reaction to some of what we learned so far. The judge granting a defense request to dismiss a prospective juror because she called the hotel surveillance video damning. Maybe not surprising, but what do you think about this?
Good afternoon, Brianna. It's absolutely not surprising because they want to get to a fair and impartial jury, and someone who has already formed an opinion, for example, is not going to be someone that defense is going to want to move forward with, because you are supposed to listen to what the judge says in the four corners of the room. And so when you are walking in there with an already pre-approved idea of what you think is going to happen and what you think your opinion is going to be, it is hard to be able to say that that person is going to be swayed and can be fair and impartial.
And we do have the jury questionnaire. One of the questions is, have you, a family member, or someone close to you been the victim of sexual assault, sexual harassment, or domestic violence? It's notable 2 women who said they've been sexually assaulted in the past remain in the jury pool after being questioned. How could that impact things? And specifically how the defense may handle this?
Well, that's one of the things that you would be looking for as a prosecutor, right? You would like someone who has experience with sexual violence. And that does not mean that you have a predisposed notion of what he did, but you are comfortable with graphic testimony, for example. You are comfortable watching videos and you have some experience. So it's not an ideal juror for the defense, but that is someone that the prosecution would want on their team, and that is not a reason to excuse the juror for cause.
What kind of juror does the defense want?
The defense ideally would be looking for an older man, for example, someone who has maybe been falsely accused by the police, someone who may be in a high-powered job with traditional values, someone who really does not come in with a preconceived notion, someone who is skeptical of law enforcement. Those would be the type of jurors that the defense would be looking for.
And at this point, Combs's lawyer is saying he could take the stand. Would you find that difficult to believe? Do you think he could help his case or hurt his case?
Well, that's one of the things that a defense lawyer always says. If you look across any of these prior cases, my client is really considering taking the stand. He really wants to tell his side of the story, and I'm willing to bet that he is not going to take the stand. That would be the absolute worst thing that he can do, because that offers up cross-examination, it offers up his priors, it offers up him to be caught in a lie, and really can talk to him about anything that he has ever done. So there is probably no way that Sean Diddy Combs will take the stand, although that is the very old trick in the book with the defense lawyer saying that he wants to tell his side of the story. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it would be.
Why not? If I was Diddy, I would.
Extraordinary if it did. How tough is this case going to be for the defense?
I'm sorry?
How tough is this case going to be for the defense?
It is an extreme uphill battle for the defense. If you look at the indictment, it is very tight. They have video evidence. They have 4 witnesses, one being Cassie Ventura, who was very detailed and explicit in her complaint. And you have a large digital footprint. You have Combs trying to contact people to try and get them to recant their stories or make sure that their testimony aligns with his. They've got so much incriminating evidence, but the burden is on the prosecution. So the defense does not have to put on a case, but the prosecution has a very, very solid case here, and it's going to be a very uphill battle, especially with what they are offering as a defense, that it was consensual, that these people are in a swinging lifestyle, and the prosecutions are prudes, and that does not really have anything to do with the case. If you have a consensual, sexual swinging lifestyle, then one thing that is implicit in there is consent. And this case is built on the fact that he was abusive, he was violent, he blackmailed people into staying silent. So that really undermines the defense's testimony right there. So I don't really see that this case is going to be easy for the defense to disprove in any way through cross-examination or otherwise any kind of allegations that most of the allegations that the prosecution is putting forward. Is a very, very strong case.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the defense is when it gets into the details of it. Lisa Bonner, thanks so much.
Yeah, Diddy got to get busy. Diddy gotta get busy. Diddy gotta get busy. Diddy gotta get busy.
Imagine waking
Diddy
up in a
gotta get
sprawling
busy.
mansion,
I
surrounded.
don't know, man. So I look at it like this: jury selection underway. They saying they got full powerhouse witnesses. They saying Cassie one of the biggest witnesses. You know what I mean? That's a hard motherfucking. That's a damaging. That her whatever them other three witnesses, we don't know who they is, but when they pop off and when they do it, you get what I'm saying? These witnesses could be whoever, but I believe Diddy lawyers could crush those, whoever those are. But Cassie in the video, just like that jury said, they seen the video. And out of 600 jurors, all of them seen the video. You ain't gonna tell me you didn't see the video. I don't care if you watch BT, MTV, podcasts, everybody in the universe seen that video. And plus, Diddy made a public apology about the video. So they can't hit me with no jurors is going to be biased, but they just got to get people to say, okay, he did that. We know what that was, but let's see what everything that they got before we find him guilty of all these charges. And we talking about the feds. And then it was a plea deal on the table, and then he got to strike the deal. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. You know what I mean? That's what it is. Well, Diddy, you get what I'm saying? That's what it is with him. So I just feel like Diddy gonna have to hold it down. I ain't gonna lie, I don't know what he got going on, but you know what I mean? I don't know what he got going on. But you know what I'm saying? That's what it is. You know what I mean? Hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. You know what I mean? That's it. You know what I mean? Drop a like, leave a comment. We gonna handle that right there. You know what I mean? So that's just what it is. You know what I mean? So let's get into it. So Ohio man go crazy. I ain't gonna lie. He ain't go crazy. We got to get into this. This is a high profile joint. So police officers in Ohio, I got to get it to police officers in Ohio killed an 18-year-old dude. The 18-year-old dude had a gun, but the police shot him in the back. So the footage is all over the internet. Us YouTubers, we can't play that video because it's instantly get a strike. I ain't even in the algorithm, so I'm not gonna play that video, but I am going to be playing news clipping from that. So Ohio man is charged with probably vehicular manslaughter or murder. I'm not sure. We all gonna talk about the charges, but he's being charged with this in retaliation from his son's death. A police officer killed his son, and he went the next day and he killed the police officer. You know what I mean? Eye for an eye. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna give a radical, crazy opinion on this, but I am going to give my opinion on this. But we all going to listen to it and see what's going on.
In the last several hours, we are following several shootings, including one in Cincinnati where police shot and killed an armed 18-year-old. And then not even 24 hours later, get this, police say the victim's father intentionally drove into the deputy involved in his son's shooting. The deputy is dead. CBS News correspondent Chanel Call is following this story and more from the newsroom. Chanel, what's the latest in that case in Ohio? This is not only one issue of violence, but then a second follow-up issue.
Yeah, Reed, just a tragic story out of Ohio this hour. A man whose teenage son was killed by police in Cincinnati, now accused of killing a sheriff's deputy. Rodney Hinton allegedly rammed his car into that officer. We now know that officer has been identified as Deputy Leary Henderson, a 33-year veteran. Henderson was notably not involved in Hinton's son's death, but want to show you police body camera video of the terrifying moments before officers shot and killed Hinton's 18-year-old son, Ryan Hinton, and want to warn you, it can be a bit tough to watch. So, Reed, police say Ryan Hinton was shot twice and killed by police. This happened on Thursday during a chase after officers had responded to a call about a stolen car. His father, Rodney Hinton, now being held without bond, and police say, as well as his public defender, saying that he had no felonies on his record. And his public defender also said this was an emotionally charged situation.
Well, and it was a violent weekend, so let's talk about each case one by one, starting with bullets flying in the state of Arizona. What do you know about that, Chanel?
Yeah, Reed, so we know that this happened in Glendale, Arizona, just before 8 o'clock last night, so, around dinner time inside a steakhouse. That steakhouse, as you mentioned, happened to be right beside police headquarters. Details at this point are a bit limited, but local police do say 3 people were killed and 5 others were injured, either during or after that shooting. They believe more than one shooter was involved. They also say multiple people were being questioned by police. But at this point, we can say there is no danger to the public.
Also, from Arizona to Houston, more than a dozen people involved in a Texas shooting there. What do you know?
Yeah, this happened.
Now, I want to get into that. My mind went crazy. Shorty went crazy. He ain't do nothing.
Ohio now, where authorities say a man intentionally struck and killed a sheriff's deputy the day after the suspect's teenage son was fatally shot by police. In his first court appearance this weekend, Rodney Hinton Jr. walked through a room packed with law enforcement.
Iced him too.
CBS's Lisa Ross is tracking the latest developments for us tonight. Lisa.
Hey, he walked through that courtroom and he iced him. He walked through that courtroom and he iced him. 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 He iced him, bro. He mugged him and let him know, I don't give a fuck. That's what he did when he walked past the police. I'm standing on that. That's what he did when he walked past them. Y'all go look at the footage yourself. Y'all look it up. He mugged the shit out the police and told the police, y'all don't ice me, you staring at the wrong one. And this crime was emotionally, with all the deaths, and I'm not saying it was 3 people, lost their life here. This man's probably never gonna come home. His son's dead, and a police officer is dead. You know what I mean? And 1 cop got the murder on his spot. This is a whole tragic situation. It's all sad. I'm not at that phase in my life where it's just, fuck the police and fuck this and that. It's good police officers out here. It's good people everywhere that do different things and in different walks of life. It's good people everywhere. You know what I'm saying? But I'ma say that so many polices done did, to kill people for no reason, and it's shown on YouTube and it's televised every day, that would make a person think that way, that he thought. So that's why I would say the mercy, will come in like, yo, the police do so much shit every day. You just black out and think, they didn't did it to my son. The Trayvon Martin, the list goes on. Freddie Gray, the list goes on. We seen polices do fucked up shit. So because they, all over the world have, a few rotten apples that put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. Because as a cop, you're supposed to serve and protect. And a lot of cops, ain't bad cops. A lot of cops are really out here to serve and protect and love their job. Not love their job to destroy and hurt people. Love their job to protect and serve their community. I believe that. You know what I'm saying? I know it's good officers out here. But those bad officers, those racist officers, those ignorant officers, those psychotic officers made it bad for a lot of the good officers. And you can say the same thing about, criminals, vice versa. So there you go. You have a fire and you have a man that has no criminal record, never broke the law, and y'all pushed him to the limit. The world is cruel, bro. This is an evil place out here, bro. It's an evil place out here, bro. True story. It's an evil place out here. And we're seeing firsthand what happens. A man, working father. Somebody, y'all killed my son, and he went out there and killed one of them. That's what happened. Let's go.
Deputy killed has not been identified, but fellow law enforcement describe him as a fantastic officer and person. Law enforcement is grieving one of their own. The sheriff's deputy was directing traffic at a local university graduation Friday when he was struck.
The officer was just out doing his job, directing traffic up near the University of Cincinnati.
The alleged driver is 38-year-old Rodney Hinton. He is the father of a teen fatally shot by Cincinnati police on Thursday. That teen was 18-year-old Ryan Hinton. Police say he was armed and running away from a stolen vehicle when another officer opened fire. Police body cam footage of the shooting was shared with the teen's family the same day the deputy was struck. Prosecutors allege this was no accident.
There are no evidence of skid marks. There are no evidence that he tried to avoid him.
More than 30 members of the sheriff's department filled the courtroom for Hinton's arraignment. His attorney addressed the crowd.
I understand that there's a lot of sadness and a lot of anger in this room right now, in the community at large.
We have a deputy that's killed simply doing his job. It's a shame. It's tragic.
Rodney Hinton has been charged with aggravated murder and was denied bond. Jarika?
Lisa Rosner with those details. Thank you.
Aggravated murder. I don't know how that works. You know what I'm saying? Google aggravated murder. Google aggravated murder for me. Somebody, Google aggravated murder for me.
What the hell is going on in Cincinnati?
That shit vicious. I'm trying to see what happened with the son. Let's see, is it?
The separate session of the Hamilton County Municipal Court is now in session. Judge Tyrone Yates is presiding this morning. We ask that you turn off all cell phones. You may be seated. Please remain quiet during all proceedings.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. First case will not to the lobby.
Okay. Thank you.
Black man held his head up high walking in the courtroom. Let me show y'all real quick. Let me snap on this real quick, y'all. Let me snap on this. Let me show you how that boy walked in the courtroom. Show you how that boy walked in the courtroom. That's a man with pride. That's a man right there. That's a man right there. If you never seen one before, that's a man right there. Don't you ever look down on him. That's a man right there. You see them boys? They never came to court like that. You see that man standing with his head up high. Man got his head up high, man. That's a man right there.
All right.
That's a man.
Anything as to probable cause?
Yeah, we're away probable cause this morning. I submitted designations for John Kennedy and Timothy Pickle. They will be the trace records in this case. We handle the hearing this morning.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Prosecutor, or anything as to bond?
As to bond, Your Honor. Thank you. Your Honor, we understand this is a very, very serious, very terrible charge that Mr. is facing. He's a risk, but he does not have a history, Judge. He has no felonies in his record. His risk assessment score is 1. He has a juvenile record. He works at BDF. He's married. He's a father. He's a graduate of Purcell Marion. I understand that.
Hey, nothing wrong with that man. That man ain't got no criminal record. That man don't got nothing. He don't have nothing. That's a man right there. See all these dudes going out ratting and killing people for nothing and doing all this stupid shit. That's a man right there. Don't you ever forget it. Y'all see that, you look at that man and you show that man respect. That's an honorable man right there. He fought about his son. That's what people going. They go about their people.
Allow our constitutional process to play out.
All right. Thank you. Andy, you've given me pre-trial services sheet.
Is that right? All right, the court has had a chance to review
Yeah.
that and it's passed.
Iceman.
History.
Yeah.
Is there anything
That's a
from
man
the
right there,
state
bro.
that-
And I'm gonna say this.
Yes, Your Honor, Ron Nelson.
Again, rest in peace to that officer that lost his life. Rest in peace to that 18-year-old boy that was in a stolen car that had a gun on him. He was in a stolen car because, see, one thing about me, I don't play games. I don't play games. You know, the facts are the facts. Your son, he's in a stolen car. He has a gun on him. In my heart, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I saw what, I didn't even see the full footage yet. I've been seeing clips and they took it down, whatever, but that body camera footage is out. And I'm not going to play that, but I'm going to look at it. And from what I saw, I don't believe that an 18-year-old kid will have in his mind to aim a gun at the police officer and it don't go off. The police officer shot the kid in the back. He was running like, he running and he got a gun, bro. The gun didn't go off. Police officers are trained to they're trained. They know how to use guns. That's a part of being on the force. You know how to use a gun. You know how to retrieve. You know how to do stuff. Criminals, if you want to say juveniles, they don't, they know what GTA and what movie show. They don't know, nothing like that. So me saying like, why would I just turn a stolen car and a gun charge into a murder on a police officer? And again, that father worked, honorable man, never been in trouble, don't have no felonies on his record, married, doing his thing. It was a heartbreaking thing to get that through. A nigga head, like the police killed my son. And they been killing dudes. Now my son is my son is Trayvon Martin. My son is Freddie Gray. You know what I mean? My son is George Floyd. My son is Rodney King. My son is, they done did it to my son now. That what was going through his head. I don't think he's a killer. Every person that take a life is not a killer. I think he had it on his mind. I think he had it on his mind. 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 That's all I'm saying, bro. That's all I'm saying. Y'all can't be no fake people and act like nigga did something wrong, for riding for his son. Because people are riding for drugs. You killed my son because he killed your people. People are riding for drugs. They're riding for drugs. You know what I mean? They sell drugs and, they fighting over blocks. They killing over women. They killing over stupidity. But here you go have a man that just was brain fucked up in the head about losing his son, plus losing it to Ohio police. Or just the thought of losing your son to the police, you're not thinking. And he lost his mind, bro. And because he lost his mind, someone else that took an oath because he looked at it as if the police, they all together. They all in coerce. And he took it out on a cop that, I don't know for sure. In the comment box, you put in if he killed a cop that had nothing to do with nothing. That cop didn't deserve it. But the same thing, if you shoot at a cop, they all gonna shoot at you. So this is not a killer. This is a hard-working black man trying to raise his family. His son decides to carry a gun and hang out in a stolen car, and resulting in the police killing him, and resulting in his father killing the police. The rest of the children, the mother lost the father. The other children, the wife lost a husband because the juvenile was carrying a gun and entertaining ignorance, and something went wrong. No matter how hard we try, no matter how hard you try, your kids can tend to go the other way. You know what I'm saying? And his son decision costed his father to be on the news, and his father got his head up high and said, I'm standing on this. I'm standing on this. And that's the way that this goes. And it's sad, man. It's sad, man. It's sad, man. It's really, really tragic. But let's finish listening to this.
Can you give us more volume, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Ryan Nelson on behalf of the prosecution. What we believe that the evidence will show is that yesterday, on about the 2nd of May, the defendant was traveling, I believe, eastbound on Martin Luther King Avenue at MLK, I believe at Burnett Woods, the intersection, I believe immediately north to the rear entrance of the University of Cincinnati. The defendant stops his car. The defendant, in a way that was calculated and premeditated, lined up his car, deliberately accelerated his car, and purposely caused the death of an on-duty deputy sheriff who was doing a detail at that intersection. As such, we are going to be seeking indictment for aggravated murder, and we would request, in accordance with ORC 2937-222, for a no bond hearing. That rule requires that hearing be set within 3 business days, so we are seeking to set that date on the 6th of May of 2025, that'll be next Tuesday.
The evening on November 13th, 2020.
Let me see this. Dang. Police kill teenager. Police. Kill. Teenager. Here it is. They took that down, see? That's how quick it is. Hold up, here it is.
Violence in the last several hours. We are following several shootings, including one in Cincinnati where police shot and killed an armed 18-year-old. And then not even 24 hours later, get this, police say the victim's father intentionally drove into the deputy involved in his son's shooting. The deputy is dead. CBS News correspondent Chanel Call is following this story and more from the newsroom. Chanel, what's the latest in that case in Ohio? This is not only one issue of violence, but then a second follow-up issue.
Yeah, Reed, just a tragic story out of Ohio this hour. A man whose teenage son was killed by police in Cincinnati, now accused of killing a sheriff's deputy. Rodney Hinton allegedly rammed his car into that officer. We now know that officer has been identified as Deputy Leary Henderson, a 33-year veteran. Henderson was notably not involved in Hinton's son's death, but want to show you police body camera video of the terrifying moments before officers shot and killed Hinton's 18-year-old son, Ryan Hinton, and want to warn you, it can be a bit tough to watch.
He ain't point no fucking gun at the police. He didn't point no gun at the
Ryan
police.
Hinton was shot twice and killed by police. This
Yo,
happened on
he didn't
Thursday
do
during a
that,
chase.
bro.
After officers responded to a call about a stolen car. His father, Rodney Hinton, now being held without bond, and police say, as well as his public defender, is saying that he had no felonies on his record. And his public defender also said this was an emotionally charged situation.
Well, and it was a violent weekend, so let's talk about each case one by one, starting with bullets flying in the state of Arizona. What do you know about that, Chanel?
Yeah, right. So we know that this happened in Glendale, Arizona, just before 8 o'clock last night. So, around dinner time inside a steakhouse. That steakhouse, I should mention, happened to be right beside police headquarters. Details at this point a bit limited, but local police do say 3 people were killed and 5 others were injured, either during or after that shooting. They believe more than one shooter was involved. They also say multiple people were being questioned by police. But at this point, we can say there is no danger to the public.
Also, from Arizona to Houston, more than a dozen people involved in a Texas.
I heard about that Houston shooting, bro. Dang. So what y'all think about that? Hit that in the you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Put that in the description, man. Hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment, man. I'm trying to push my content back into the algorithm, so you know I'm out here grinding. So my man Lil Durk, man. I got my man Durkio. Durkio is on, man. I got Durkio, bro. That's my guy. Everybody know Durk, my guy. So what's going on now? I was rapping to my brother, keeping it to G News early, and he gave me an update because I just went out the way for a second, right? So okay, so Lil Durk lawyer pushes for the bail, and he proves, beyond a reasonable doubt the thing that the grand jury had was lyrics. They charged him with lyrics. So what the feds did was came back and they superseded Lil Durk, hit Lil Durk with a superseded indictment, and now they took the lyrics off the table. And I forgot what they calling it, but we about to get into it. What they calling it, because he gave me a little insight on it. But we gonna dig in the crates. Please hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment, man. Hey, RDP podcast vlog, we in the building. The reason why I called it a podcast vlog because I'm a podcaster and then I'm doing this vlogging thing, and it's just me just to give you an update and keep my channel pumping. It's like you got to drink water every day to keep the blood flowing. I got to do podcasts every day, and also make sure y'all tap in with me at 6 a.m. I will be up at 6 a.m. So let's get into this Lil Durk. Let's go.
Now, his defense team is hoping to have the case dismissed altogether, or at the bare minimum, at least be able to get the client out of federal lockup in a trial. And the defense is slamming federal prosecutors, claiming they misled the grand jury by presenting what the defense calls false evidence in the rapper's murder for hire case. I'm Elizabeth Milner with Law and Crime. So what is the false evidence the defense is talking about? Well, they claim it's song lyrics the government handed to the grand jury as Lil Durk celebrating and profiting off a revenge murder he allegedly ordered. However, the defense says that's not true at all, claiming artists shouldn't be criminalized for lyrical creativity, especially when the song was written months before the murder. Lil Durk faces multiple charges, including conspiracy, use of interstate facilities to commit murder for hire resulting in death, using, carrying, and discharging firearms and machine guns, and possession of such firearms in furtherance of a crime of violence resulting in death. Plus now another charge, according to federal prosecutors. But more on that in a bit. So the arrest came down in late October. In late November, his superseding indictment came down. And by December, he was denied bond after pleading not guilty to his charges. Now, Lil Durk has maintained his innocence, and the defense hopes a federal judge will reconsider the detention order. In an April motion to dismiss Durk's superseding indictment, the rapper's defense team says, quote, the government presented false evidence to the grand jury that indicted Mr. Banks on November 7th.
We talking about Lil Durk.
The plain language of the superseding indictment
like this video, y'all.
that the government told the grand jury that Mr. Banks, through specific lyrics in his music, celebrated and profited from a revenge murder that he ordered, namely that of SR in August of 2022. That claim is demonstrably false. So as many rap fans already know, federal prosecutors allege Lil Durk ordered a hit out on rapper Quando Rondo in retaliation for his alleged involvement in Lil Durk's close friend King Von's murder. Now, King Von was shot and killed in 2020 in Atlanta, Georgia. Prosecutors claim Lil Durk ordered a hit on Quando. However, it was Quando's cousin that was killed in the ambush-style shooting in LA in 2022. And again, Lil Durk isn't accused of pulling the trigger or actually carrying out the murder. He's accused of orchestrating it. But either way, he still faces what could be a life sentence if he's convicted on these charges. Now, the defense claims when prosecutors brought the case to a grand jury, they relied on evidence from Lil Durk's Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy song. This claims the song was actually recorded by another artist, Babyface Ray, and Lil Durk was just a feature on the song. So he couldn't have commercialized off the alleged murder for hire of Quando Rondo's cousin. But the defense says the government painted it out that way to a grand jury. Plus, and likely the most important part, is that Lil Durk recorded those lyrics 7 months before Quando's cousin was killed. So Lil Durk recorded his portion in January of 2022. Quando Rondo and his cousin were shot at in August of that same year. But the defense says after the song was recorded back in January, Lil Durk no longer had involvement on the song. All other production on it was done by producers and other industry professionals. But there were no changes to lyrics made by Lil Durk. And all of this information was available to the government. So now the defense is pushing for the courts to dismiss the superseding indictment against Lil Durk. The defense wrote in their motion, quote, "The issue over timing of Mr. Banks's recording of the lyrical verse in question is not one of frivolous or inconsequential value. It is quite the opposite. The government's misrepresentation about the creation and meaning of Wonderful Wayne are the linchpin of the superseding indictment's theory of Mr. Banks's guilt. Indeed, the superseding indictment features it prominently. And according to the superseding indictment, federal prosecutors wrote, quote, "Following the attempted murder of TB and the murder of SR, defendant Banks sought to commercialize SR's death by rapping about his revenge on TB with music that explicitly references audio from a news clip taken shortly after SR's murder, where TB screamed no, no after seeing SR's dead body." Now, the defense wrote in response to that line, quote, "It is in fact the only material allegation that does not appear in the original indictment, which does not charge Mr. Banks, but appears in the superseding indictment, which does charge him." The defense argues the superseding indictment isn't sustainable against Lil Durk in the face of fundamental factual error that the grand jury relied on. And the defense wants a dismissal of the indictment, writing, quote, "A prosecutor who knowingly secures an indictment based upon false information or who allows a falsely obtained indictment to persist routes the grand jury from its central protective function." That is clearly what happened here. For the foregoing reasons, the court should dismiss the superseding indictment against Mr. Banks. In the alternative, the court should compel disclosure of the relevant underlying grand jury proceedings. Durk's family also released a statement echoing the defense's motion, writing, "The recent developments in Durk's legal case have brought a harsh truth to light. The government presented false evidence to a grand jury to indict him. This isn't justice. That's a violation of the very system that's supposed to protect all of us. Durk has always used music to tell stories, to express pain, to heal, and yet those same lyrics are now being used against him. We refuse to stay silent as Black artists continue to be criminalized for their creativity. Rap is art. As a family, we are asking the public, the fans, and the culture to stand with us. Stand for truth, stand for fairness, stand for the voice." So what was the government's response? Well, they claimed the timing of when he recorded the song and the fan-made videos overlapping the news clip about Quando's cousin's death is neither new nor does it have a material bearing on the court's detention analysis. Federal prosecutors write, quote, "Tellingly, defendant's application does not even reference the court's analysis on danger or flight. It does not explain how defendant's lyrics or fan-made videos undermine the inference that defendant, who has considerable resources, attempted to leave the United States upon learning of the arrest of his co-conspirators, or that defendant uses his money, influence, and power to endanger individuals whom he perceives as a threat." At the hearing, defense counsel raised this exact issue of timing of defendant's lyrics. The court made clear that the lyrics were not material to its detention analysis. The filing goes on to say, moreover, defendants proffer that his fans, rather than defendant himself, created the videos linking him to SR's murder is immaterial to defendant's danger or flight. Defendant was not detained because of videos his fans created. He was detained because he is alleged to be the leader of a violent organization, because he orchestrated and funded an execution-style murder with machine guns at a busy gas station, and because he tried to flee the country after his co-conspirators were arrested. But
That
even
wasn't
if
true.
the lyrics or videos had some bearing on the detention analysis, they corroborate defendant's danger. Defendant has repeatedly used his pulpit as a voice of violence, publicly rapped about paying for murders, hunting opponents with machine guns, bounty hunters in Beverly Hills, and other lyrics that have a striking similarity to the modus operandi used to kill SR. Federal prosecutors list other songs where they claim Lil Durk was rapping about the murder, like Gucci Mane's song Rumors, where Lil Durk had a feature, and Scoom His, which was an unreleased song seized by the feds. So because of Lil Durk allegedly trying to flee, because remember, his arrest happened at a Miami airport, the FBI said Lil Durk at the time booked at least 3 international flights following the arrest of his now co-defendants. U.S. Customs and Border Protection alerted the FBI he booked 2 one-way flights to Dubai and Switzerland, but also booked a private plane to leave Miami and arrive in Italy. However, he was arrested prior to takeoff. So for all of those reasons, federal prosecutors want the court to keep Lil Durk where he is, in federal detention pending trial. Then on May 1st, prosecutors say the grand jury returned a second superseding indictment.
Yeah, that's what I
charging the
told y'all.
Chicago rapper and his co-defendants with crimes arising from the August 2022 murder of SR, including an additional charge of stalking resulting in death. In the court filing, prosecutors write, quote, defendant Banks has presented a false narrative that he is being prosecuted and detained because of his violent lyrics. This claim is and has always been baseless. Prosecutors say the second superseding indictment contains no allegations about defendant's lyrics. Instead, it contains significant allegations that show Durk's alleged role in the execution-style murder of Quando's cousin. So with the second superseding indictment coming down, quite frankly, it's just not looking too good. But it'll be up to a judge to decide. Durk has a court hearing set for next week. This Lil Durk case has so many layers. The defense claims it's the lyrics that helped get Lil Durk indicted. Federal prosecutors say it was Lil Durk's alleged actions, that being the reason. So let's bring on now a great guest, and that's civil rights and trial attorney Adante Pointer. Adante, great to have you on. What's your reaction to
So I gotta say this.
Lil Durk's
at the feds, now I'm feeling like, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I'm feeling like the feds ain't got no case against Durk. Real shit. I feel like that the case was sloppy. They came too soon, and the case is sloppy. And they don't have nothing on Durk. Just everybody know when Durk first got arrested. First they said that he was booking the flights, but kind of found out the flights was too long and he just wanted one flight. And then they said it was the lyrics, and then kind of find out he been did the song. Now they charge him with some type of murder stalking shit. Some shit I never heard of. Murder by stalking. You know what I mean? They doing all of this and they saying, no, this ain't the lyrics. We got concrete evidence that this man did this and that. Now, when you a smart defense attorney in America, it is a law called freedom of speech. Yeah, this is one of the amendments, like the first amendment, right to bear arms, freedom of speech, a lot of shit is in the Constitution, right? So with freedom of speech, BG made it clear when they just try to violate him, you don't charge Denzel Washington for playing, whatever role he played, for playing a crooked cop, and then saying that he is the person that he was in Training Day, or he is Frank Lucas. You know what I mean? Will Smith. Any role you play. So these guys are saying these are roles that they playing. Drill music is a big thing in Chicago, talking about you drilling. So if I was his defense attorney, I'm saying this is how he made money, talking about drills. Now, is this shit true? Who are we to say that this is true? Who are we to play Inspector Gadget and confuse real crime with music? You get what I'm saying? It's been facts known that artists lie in their raps. You get what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, y'all convicting dudes off of something that they put in the song. You get what I'm saying? Like, and you don't get it fucked up like a Sprite remix in a pack of party mix. Some of them boys be saying shit and really be getting caught up, and that's the way that it be happening, and that is true indeed. That's a fact that the prosecutor can come back with. But is a dude just making millions of dollars off the lyrics is really out here sending hits and really doing all this old crazy shit? Or is people making an assumption that he's sending hits and all he doing is feeding off the energy of what people think? You get what I'm saying? They saying Ralph Vaughn, his cousin got killed in LA. So we just, we just rapping about it because that's what they did about us. That's what they did to us. You know what I'm saying? Nobody charged them when he made the song, dissing and saying that's what happened with his cousin. And that's what happened in self-defense. Nobody got mad at him. He didn't get a federal indictment for that. So y'all federal indicting me for just rapping, or maybe just federal indicting me for speaking something in existence. I don't know, bro. I don't know, but I want to see this play out with Dirt. I think Dirt's going to trial at the end of the year, just like Diddy went to trial, in the middle, damn near in the middle of the year. It's not going to be long. Melly shit coming up. It's a lot going on, man. It's a lot going on in hip hop, and this little Dirt thing has got a long way to go. Dirt sent some serious shit. And he can't be convicted of this. And you know what I mean? I don't know if he's gonna strike a plea. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But like, even they saying on Law & Crime, and like a lot of people that's covering this case is saying that the feds ain't got what we thought, or what the media or what they putting out in the world. They don't got what we think they got. You get what I'm saying? Or at least they don't got what they think they got, because You know what I mean? You gotta have a strong, you gotta break somebody to really come and point that man out to get 12 people to believe that this man was just paying money. You know what I'm saying? This man getting shows and all that shit. Even if he beefing, even if he wanted to hurt them niggas, he got money to stay far away from them dudes. So I can't really have many ops because the ops live in Chicago. I live in Florida. So you know how serious is really a beef that y'all trying to put on me. Or if y'all trying to get a rat or somebody that want to cooperate, a whistleblower testifying against me, make it make sense. You know, Von did die. That was a tragic event. You know, I'm definitely angry about him. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. He never ran across Quando Rondo. You know, Quando Rondo cousin didn't kill King Von. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of ways that the lawyer can go with it. It's going to be a toss up. And like I said, Dirt, aka Mustafa, aka Smirk, he got money to fight. Just like Diddy, they got money to fight. They got big money to fight. And they fighting because the charges against them are just not charges that you just go into court and raise your right hand and plead out to. So it's a toss up, you know, with is the Fed, and the Feds all got them. So is the Feds going to win and beat them and just crush hip hop? Or is these dudes gonna, you know, get not guilty? You know, the last time I seen a big federal trial and somebody not get found not guilty was a Gotti trial. And I ain't talking about the mob boss. I'm talking about Herb Gotti and his brother. You know what I mean? When they got caught up in that Supreme shit and hit them with conspiracy and all that crazy shit, they went to trial. And you know what I'm saying? They went to trial and they got found not guilty, all that shit. So you know what I mean? It could look crazy on paper, it could look crazy to the people, but 12 people are your peers, and sometimes them people be fucked up. They gotta find you guilty. You get what I'm saying? Everybody ain't gonna believe in Little Dirt and Diddy huge in the United States. So I just don't got them just being like, you know what I'm saying? They huge. They huge in the United States. They're huge. They're big. They're very, very important people in the music industry. So it's hard to get a jury that don't know who they is. You know what I mean? And then you know you could pick some racist people that don't like music. I don't know how it's gonna go, but that's just ain't you know they'll find you guilty out here. I done seen motherfuckers get found guilty now. Don't act like we ain't seen people found guilty, but is these dudes gonna get found guilty? You know that's it's crazy. It's two different cases, two different wild situations. And man, 2025, man, Uncle Murder rap has gotta be the best one in 2025. But that's for the him what the experts gotta say.
Are being used against him.
Well, you know, this is a common refrain or say response to these type of allegations when an artist, be it a rapper or be it whoever, their artwork is being used against them to say they engaged in criminal conduct. You know, we do have freedom of speech in this country, although there are some limits to it, and anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. And this is one of those cases that tees that up perfectly.
And so prosecutors, they say that the lyrics were an issue that was brought up at his original detention hearing, and they have nothing to do with why the judge made that ruling to keep him locked up pending trial. And while the defense points specifically to his feature on Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy, the Fed sees another song that references riding through Beverly Hills with choppers, all this other stuff. What's your reaction to those specific songs being called out in the government's response?
Well, you know, the government is saying, look, these lyrics in your rap songs and rap verses are too eerily, coincidentally similar to what happened in real life. So is this a situation where art mirrors life, or is life mirroring art? The government is saying your art is mirroring your real life, which is a criminal life. Lil Durk is simply saying, look, these are lyrics. It's art. If it so happens to generally fit something that really took place in life, that doesn't mean I'm the person or the culprit that did it. And this is going to be the tug of war, essentially the issue that will be filed out throughout this case.
And it's interesting that they point to specifically the Jackie Boy song, mainly because that was recorded 7 months before the murder even happened. What's your reaction to just that this song was recorded months prior to the murder, and yet it was specifically pointed out by federal prosecutors in their first superseding indictment? We'll talk about the second one in just a sec.
I was a bit shocked to find out that the song that the government has essentially rested its foundation upon, as it relates to the criminal prosecution of Lil Durk, is a song that was recorded several months, I believe 7 to 8 months prior to the actual shooting and killing. So what you have here is the government trying to say, look, you made these lyrics, and these lyrics indicate to us that you're responsible for the shooting, or at least you played a role in it. Well, Lil Durk is saying the song came out so far in advance of the actual shooting. I didn't have anything to do with that. It just so happens, once again, a coincidence that these lyrics generally fit what wound up taking place in the future. Of course, the government's response to that is maybe you were just rapping about something that you were intended to do before you actually did it.
And what do you think that message kind of sends to other rappers? You know, we've seen this in other cases as well too, with Young Thug. Now we have
Hit
Lil
that
Durk
like
and these
button.
other
Hit that
rappers
like
who,
button.
you know, do have criminal charges brought against them. But it does seem like, you know, federal authorities, especially in this case, you know, they go to podcast interviews, they go to lyrics of songs and use that as evidence against these rappers. But in terms of, you know, freedom of speech and freedom of expression, what does that say to rappers who, you know, to their point, to the rap in rap's defense, I should say, you know, they are expressing a lyrical art form. They are talking about their lives. And maybe sometimes there are instances where they're, you know, over embellishing or maybe just kind of like chalking it up for more views, for more listeners to come in, that type of thing. But overall, what do you think that message sends to other rappers that, you know, might get caught up in something like this and their art is used against them?
I think when you see these criminal prosecutions based upon an artist's rap lyrics, this is a bright, fat, flashing red flag, warning sign, turn around, go the other way. Because if this is simply their artwork and their art form, and they're engaging in freedom of speech, their creativity is not supposed to lead to seeing the inside of a courtroom, handcuffs, and potentially very long prison sentences. You know, so I think that any rapper or any entertainer, period, any artist or creative has to take note and have a really clear understanding that what they say may and will be used against them in a court of law. And will find them in a lot of hot water if it comes even close to mimicking something that's taking place in real life.
And you know, and a government filing came down on Friday, or today, I should say, that says Lil Durk is facing another charge of stalking, and this is coming after a grand jury handed down a second superseding indictment. Are you surprised there is a second superseding indictment, and what do you make of the stalking charge being added?
Well, you know, it is in some ways it's surprising to see yet another superseding indictment come down. However, if you understand the way the government works, and particularly the federal government, they're not going to stop investigating, and they will essentially pile up all of these charges, roll them into one criminal prosecution, and force the defendant to fight their way out of it in defending against a myriad of charges, which makes it exponentially tougher for a defendant to actually get acquitted or declared innocent, because you have so many battles that you have to fight. You're almost overwhelmed. So while I'm sure Little Durk was disappointed to hear about it, the question is that really a weak allegation that's being added, or is it something that really does have a solid evidentiary foundation, and therefore he has to be concerned as it adding to whatever his criminal prosecution or sentence may be?
And we've seen it in other federal cases, to your point, including, you know, Sean Diddy Combs, who had 3 superseding indictments, but now it seems like Lil Durk is almost there with now 2 superseding indictments. And the defense wrote in a court filing that the government provided a copy of the new indictment to undersigned counsel on today's date. In the second superseding indictment, the government has chosen to remove the allegations regarding Mr. Banks's lyrics previously included in the first superseding indictment, and remove any allegation regarding the payment of a bounty previously included in the first superseding indictment as well too. What do you make of the defense's response there?
Well, I think the defense is doing its job. The defense is pointing out the way in which the indictments have changed, or they've morphed over time. And typically what you would expect is more factual allegations, more evidence, the inclusion of additional crimes. What you would not and do not expect is that the government, after the defense made an argument about that song predating the alleged criminal conduct, now, you know, coincidentally or intentionally, I would say it's purposeful, the government now deleted or removed those allegations from the indictment.
Right.
So that actually, to me, is a point scored, if you will, for Little Durk, and a point taken away, if you will, from the government.
That's how I feel.
Because yeah, it seems like at first they were doubling down, but now it seems like they're kind of reversing course and just taking it out altogether. In your opinion, do you think the judge will reconsider the detention order, and do you think it's
That's what I want to know. Y'all think he gonna get a bail?
Lil Durk, that he can actually get bail possibly?
I think the judge will take this into consideration, and I'd be surprised if Little Durk's counsel don't make another run at getting the bail reconsidered by the judge. This is certainly could be considered new evidence that the judge did not initially have to consider, especially when you're dealing with bail. The judge is looking at the allegations in the indictment, and if those allegations change or the evidentiary underpinnings of those allegations become weak or tenuous, then it's incumbent upon the judge to reevaluate whether or not this is a person, i.e., Little Durk, can be monitored and supervised outside of being placed in a jail cell while he's fighting his case. So I think this could potentially be a game changer for Little Durk.
Now, prosecutors, on the other hand, they say that Lil Durk is a danger and a risk of flight. Now, the FBI said that he had booked 3 different flights in 3 different countries. Once he knew his co-conspirators were arrested, and Lil Durk, when he was arrested back in October, was arrested at a Miami airport. In terms of just risk or even risk of flight, do you think that the prosecution has a strong argument there?
Well, there's much ado made about these multiple fights that he had. I've seen it reported that Little Durk had these different flights because he was trying to figure out how to get to his destination the most efficiently. Now, we don't know if that's true or not, but that was his claim. And I think anytime you're dealing with a high net worth individual, there is that a heightened risk that they can use their resources and their networks to flee the long arm of the law. However, for someone who's famous as he is, he's not someone like a Kanye or a Diddy that's everyone kind of knows on sight. But I would think it would be pretty easy to keep tabs on someone such as Little Durk. So I think the government and the feds in particular, if they're inclined to want to allow him to be free while he fights this case, they certainly can come up with some accommodations to where they can keep a tab on him pretty easily.
And I think the defense was even offering up like a $3 million bail package. So it seems like from the defense's angle that they really just kind of want their client to at least be able to fight his case from the outside. So we'll kind of see what happens. But in your opinion, they're on the court's calendar, it's possible that Lil Durk will go on trial later this fall in October. But in your opinion, do you think federal prosecutors do actually have enough to convict Lil Durk? Now, they claim that they have phone records, credit card information, financial records that he allegedly paid the killers. What are your thoughts on just kind of the evidence the prosecution says that they have?
Well, the prosecution has certainly painted a strong case and a picture that seems to firmly place Little Durk in the center of the shooting. However, we certainly there are many examples of case falling apart on its way to trial, be it by witnesses, be it evidentiary evidence, or an investigation was compromised, and then that comes to the light. So while the allegations that the government are making are very serious, and it appears that they have done their homework, it doesn't mean that there weren't some missteps or overreach along the way. And those will be the issues that Little Durk's attorneys will be quick to point out and will use as a hammer, if you will, in order to try to loosen, or I should say, break the resolve of the government in going forward with these criminal charges.
And do you think it's possible that Lil Durk might have a mole in his camp? Do you think it's possible that there was someone along this way the entire time, possibly working as a cooperating witness with the federal government?
Do I think there was a cooperating witness or a mole? The answer would be yes, in caps, underscored, and bold. Because that is a very common and frequent tactic, in particular the federal government uses. They find someone that is next to or adjacent to the main target, and they find out that they've committed some type of crime and give them some sort of leniency in exchange for information or access to the main target. So it would actually be surprising to me if there was not a mole or some other confidential informant that was within Durk's camp feeding information to the federal government. Of course, that also opens up to the idea of credibility of this said witness or informant, because if their back was against the wall and they're facing 300 years. You know, many people, unfortunately, despite what we might think, would be quick to tell and throw their friend under the bus. I remember once upon a time, I was handling a case, and the defendant told me, hey, the police told me, you know, why go to the pen, pen being short for penitentiary, when you can send a friend? Why go to the pen when you can send a friend? And so people have all the incentive in the world to throw someone else under the bus in order to save yourself.
Yo, yo, it's not funny because my man Dirk fighting, but my man say, once upon a time, a defendant told me, the police told him, hey, why go to the pen when you can send a friend? That's fucked up, bro. Niggas say, why go to the pen when you can send a friend? Like, damn, yo. Like, how many people really took him up on that? You know what I'm saying? Like, sure enough, like, how many people took him up on that? Real talk. Like, damn, bro. Like, damn, bro. You know, we know one thing for sure on a Lil Durk case, that they do have a strong witness. And that witness is going to be a strong witness, and that witness, you don't know, you know what I'm saying? You don't know until it's time. You know, you can have all speculations, but you don't know, man. I can't lie to you. Wholeheartedly, I can't lie to you. But hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button. You know what I mean? What's good, baby? What's good, man? Grinding, man. Trying to get back in the algorithm. Please like this video. Please like this video. But we was talking about the Ohio man that's charged with killing the police, you know, after his son was killed by the police. um Diddy jury selection is underway. Diddy going to trial next week, and then we got Lil Durk. Lil Durk new superseding indictment, but you know the case ain't looking as strong as everybody thought. But we never know. You know, like I said, it look one way. It could look like the defense winning. It could look like the prosecutor winning. You never know till them people get in the courtroom and start rumbling, and then the jury going to deliberation. And once it's like the Super Bowl, bro. Now, man, you fight all them teams, and then the defense and the prosecution, they line it up and they go to war. Once they line it up and go to war, you got one winner. You got one winner. You got one winner. You know what I'm saying? Just make a note of that. You got one winner. So you got to be careful out here. And that's a message to all young artists. All dudes is out here just doing something like, bro, keep your personal life. Nevertheless, keep other people' personal life and your business off of podcasts, off of vlogs, off the internet, out of the ears. Don't get it twisted. You know what I mean? Those people are working. It's internet police out here. You get what I'm saying? It's things that go on. You get what I'm saying? It's investigators, the people that get up every morning that's searching to investigate dumb shit. Why, you know what I'm saying? You giving it away, you making the job easier. We already know it's AI out here. You guys are making it more easier than artificial intelligence. It's tough. So I mean, the rap shit could be misconstrued, and it could have you in a courtroom. So I don't think that's worth it, especially when you getting millions of dollars. I'm quite sure if Dirk get out of this, inshallah, hopefully he will. If you Muslim, make dua for him. If you Christian, pray for him. You know what I mean? That's all them brothers. You know what I'm saying? If those brothers did what they saying that they doing and they found guilty, those brothers got an answer, what I mean, to the judge, and they got to answer to God, you know what I'm saying? And one thing, what comes after a sentence is an appeal. So just because you found guilty of something, that doesn't mean that you will never walk the streets again. You get what I'm saying? I'm just speaking in general. So like I said, I don't the Diddy case, that's a toss up. Like I said, I don't think they're gonna find him guilty on all accounts. Lil Durk shit, we seeing it unfold, and Lil Durk just got a new superseding indictment with a charge I never heard of, stalking and murder. So it's just different things going on. But most of all, to the young artists out there, just be careful what you say. Watch what you putting in those songs. I understand it's an art, I understand it's a craft, but the jury, the judge, and the prosecution, they ain't understanding that shit. So You got to be careful what you put in your lyrics, man. Please hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment. Your boy is back, man. It's the first episode, 1 to 30. I'm going in with it, man. You know, I'm trying to stay focused. You know what I'm saying? Not getting sidetracked with nothing, man. To deliver the content, get back in the algorithm. This video, I know they're okay, but I want my videos to do better. But I'll be back at y'all first thing in the morning, 6 a.m. to be exact, man. No fuck shit, no fake shit, no foolishness. Anything you say can and will be used against you on the internet. RDP podcast. Let's go, man. Run these numbers up. Share this video. Get this in the algorithm. Let's go, baby. Let's get busy like the Bunky dance. Free the guys. Long live the guys. Rest in peace to my niggas, man.